In a nutshell, the Nintendo Switch release of Red Dead Redemption runs with the same textures and geometry draw distance settings as the PS4 release. However, it also has worse shadow quality, a minor drop in foliage draw, plus lower grade texture filtering. In the main though, it's a solid and very comparable return next to PS4, all of which brings us to performance. No surprises here, it's 30 frames per second on Switch, and to be honest, bearing in mind it's running at 1080p with all these settings, it's more defensible to see 30 FPS here than on PS4. The Tegra X1 chipset at Switch's core isn't in the same league spec-wise as Sony's home console, and yet we're still getting a 1080p 30 FPS return. Now, point number one is a huge bulk of play runs at this 30 FPS line, no issues whatsoever, though there are some exceptions. Firstly, just arriving at the Armadillo Saloon at night drags the performance to below 30 FPS, and more noticeably, the battle on the farm also has Switch drop into the high 20s. Add in a very occasional sign of uneven frame pacing at 30 FPS, prompting frame time spikes to 16 milliseconds, and it's certainly not perfect. Still though, so far in my testing anyway, we're getting a mostly stable 30 FPS experience in most areas. Overall, the turnout in performance is a success. Even the Undead Nightmare expansion, a much more taxing zombie twist on Rockstar's world, runs mostly at 30 FPS, and for perspective, this is a huge upgrade on the original Xbox 360 version. Looking at some older analysis footage from our archives, the 360 version struggled hugely with this graveyard battle. On original 360 hardware, it dropped close to the 20 FPS line with tearing, while a One S console running the 360 code cleaned the performance up. On Switch though, this graveyard area is an absolutely rock solid 30 despite the many zombies and effects on screen. And all round, it shows that the 1080p resolution is a sensible and very achievable target. As for portable play, Switch again holds out perfectly at 720p and 30 FPS. Again, the only exceptional point is that farmyard battle with the bandits, pulling us into the high 20s, but 99% of the time, it's still very playable. There's one final question on frame rates. Should Red Dead Redemption be targeting 60 frames per second on PS4 and Switch? Bearing in mind its age, a 13-year-old game, seeing 30 FPS on even top-end hardware like PS5 is obviously a disappointment. But as for Switch, well, getting 60 FPS on Nintendo's handheld would have been a bigger challenge. In fact, it's possible to see how it might have panned out thanks to a mod from MasaGratoR. Here's a small slice of footage taken direct from a modified Switch with the game's frame rate unlocked. A few caveats here. Firstly, it's running in portable mode at a native 720p, so 1080p is off the cards. And secondly, to help it towards 60 FPS, the console's GPU clocks are boosted via a mod, doubling the default 307 MHz in portable mode up to 614. Meanwhile, the CPU jumps up from the stock 1020 MHz to 1785, while memory jumps up from 1333 up to 1996. A huge increase, and yes, with all that in mind, the graph at top left shows it's at least close to 60 FPS, often between 50 and 60. Again, I will stress this is not typical hardware. The clocks are boosted, the resolution is dropped, but if 60 FPS is within reach on Switch with these adjustments, if the game logic is still intact, why is 60 FPS not considered on more powerful hardware, especially looking at PS5?